Help me hit 1,000 subscribers. Support the video with a like and share your thoughts in the comments. I read everyone. Thank you. I used to believe that some people would wait for you forever. That love, once offered, would linger patiently until you decided what to do with it. I believed this because of Ethan Hale, the man who stood quietly at the edges of my life, hoping I'd finally see him the way he saw me. And for a long time, I took that hope for granted, as if it belonged to me by right. I never imagined the day would come when he'd simply vanish. I met Ethan when I was 26 and convinced I had everything figured out. My job as a copy editor was stable, my circle of friends predictable, and my ambitions, though small, felt safe. He lived 2 floors below me in our Boston apartment building, always offering a polite smile, always ready to help with groceries, always gentle in a world that rewarded loudness. He had that rare kind of presence, quiet enough not to demand attention, but deep enough to keep pulling you in. We grew close without defining anything. Late-night conversations in the hallway, coffee on Sundays, long walks when neither of us wanted to return to our lonely apartments. I liked the way he listened, not just hearing, but absorbing things as if my words had weight. Sometimes, when our hands brushed, something electric passed between us, something I pretended not to notice. But I was waiting for someone else. Liam Carter, tall, charming, a coworker who carried confidence like a second skin. He'd been the center of my crush for months, and I had convinced myself he was what I needed to feel chosen, validated, admired. I kept Ethan close, but not close enough, always assuming he'd stay. The night everything broke started with an unexpected confession. Ethan stood at my door, hands trembling slightly, eyes focused on a point just past my shoulder. "Amelia," he said softly, "I care about you, more than I should, more than I've admitted." My heart stumbled, not because I didn't want him, but because I hadn't expected him to say it first. I felt cornered by his honesty, overwhelmed by the idea that love could be this gentle, this real. So I panicked, and I said the one thing that would change everything. You're not my first choice, Ethan. I'm sorry." I watched the light in his eyes dim so fast it hurt to witness. He nodded, swallowed hard, and whispered, "Thanks for telling me." Then he turned away. I thought he'd come back. He always did. But the next day, he wasn't at his apartment. Or the next. And by the end of the week, a stranger was moving his boxes out. He had ended his lease early. No goodbye note, no explanation. Ethan simply erased himself from my daily existence. And for the first time, I understood that disappearing can be louder than shouting. A dull ache settled in my chest that refused to fade. I tried to move on. Liam flirted back, asked me out, even kissed me one night outside the office. But everything felt thin, as if I were grasping at something that looked shiny but held no weight. His charm didn't settle my racing thoughts. His compliments didn't quiet the guilt that lived under my ribs. His touch didn't reach the places Ethan's presence once had. 3 months passed before my regret finally cracked wide open. It happened at a bookstore downtown. I picked up a novel I'd seen Ethan read once, the cover slightly worn, the memory bittersweet. I imagined telling him I finally understood why he loved it. Imagined him smiling softly, teasing me for being late to everything, even books. The longing hit me so hard I had to steady myself against a shelf. That night I wrote him an email. It was long, messy, full of apologies I should have said months earlier. I told him he mattered more than I'd ever admitted. I told him I missed him. I told him I'd been a coward. The message bounced back instantly, address no longer active. That was when the truth settled in. I had lost him. Not because he stopped caring, but because I made him feel replaceable. Weeks turned into months. Seasons shifted. People moved forward, and I pretended I was doing the same. But some nights, especially the quiet ones, I felt the weight of what I'd done pressing against my lungs. The world kept spinning, but something inside me remained frozen on the night I'd watched Ethan walk away. The real breaking point came a year later at a charity gala my company sponsored. I wandered through the room, holding a glass I barely sipped from, trying to look engaged. Then I heard a familiar laugh, soft, warm, unmistakably his. I turned, and there he was. Ethan looked different, lighter somehow, more confident. He wore a tailored charcoal suit, his hair shorter, his posture straighter. And beside him stood a woman with dark curls and bright hazel eyes. She held his arm with a comfortable familiarity that punched the air from my lungs. He saw me, and for a moment, everything slowed, the music, the chatter, the movement around us. His expression softened with recognition, but not with longing. He didn't seem angry, just resolved. I managed to smile. He returned it politely, not painfully, not regretfully, politely. The woman beside him whispered something. He laughed gently, leaning closer to her in a way that made it clear she was not temporary. I excused myself and found an empty balcony, gripping the railing as the truth washed over me. I had wanted him to wait. I had assumed he would. I believed I could break him and he'd still somehow choose me. But he had chosen himself instead. I didn't blame him. Love should never be begged for or assigned a rank. No one deserves to be somebody's second choice, not even the quiet ones, not even the patient ones. Especially not them. That night, I finally understood that regret is not a moment. It is a haunting. It whispers what-ifs in the dark, reminding you of the person you didn't love correctly when you had the chance. Ethan had healed, moved on, found someone who looked at him the way he once looked at me. And I stood alone on that balcony, learning the hardest truth of my life. Some losses are deserved, and some people only disappear once.